one of the first words babies learn to say? No. And they love saying it. Babies dish out the word no like it's redeemable rewards points for premium diapers. No hesitation, no guilt, just no. But somewhere along the way, we grow up, and suddenly that simple little word becomes the hardest thing to say. Meanwhile, the world is full of users, opportunists, and manipulators ready to squeeze every bit of mental and physical life out of us. In a world like this, the word no isn't just useful, it's a survival tool. And even more than that, it's a form of self-love. Let's talk about why saying no is one of the greatest acts of self-care you can practice. According to the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation, self-love is about valuing yourself, setting boundaries, and making choices that support your overall growth and fulfillment. For example, making the choice to leave a toxic relationship or refusing to overwork yourself for a job that doesn't appreciate you. This looks different for everyone because of our different lives, lifestyles, and experiences. But it's more than just spa days and affirmations. No shade to these because I have plenty of affirmations and I love me some spa days. But more than this, self-love is about protecting your peace, time, and energy. True self-love sets the standard for how others treat you. Without self-love, people-pleasing and burnout are inevitable. And burnout is a beast of a thing to deal with. Anyone who has experienced burnout, for example, from being asked to work extra hours leading to overwork, caregiving, helping others, or trying to juggle too many things, knows that burnout leads to exhaustion, emotional detachment, and even physical health issues. In the many times that I have experienced burnout, some of the ways mine showed up is as brain fog, extreme exhaustion, panic attacks, irritability. Oh, the irritability. My now grown children can tell you about those days of irritability. Because instead of putting on my big girl panties and using the big scary word no to relieve my overloaded life, I stress cleaned, snapped at everybody, and ate way too much junk food. Because that's obviously a sustainable life plan. While I was in burnout mode, I couldn't function properly. Eventually, I shut down. I'm not a person of science, but many of us may have learned about the law of conservation of energy that says energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred or transformed from one form to another. So in the case of burnout, which is a depletion of energy, that energy just doesn't go away. It transforms into stress, frustration, irritability, fatigue, or even resentment. And since, according to the law of conservation of energy, energy can't be created, then in the case of burnout, energy has to be replenished. To put the law of conservation of energy in perspective, we can think of ourselves like a phone battery. If we keep using our phone without charging it, eventually it shuts down. Self-love is our charger. It restores and maintains our energy so we can function at our best. If we're always giving our energy to others and never taking time to recharge, we're setting ourselves up for burnout. Burnout can also happen in our attempts at communal care, and looking out for others in the community. Self-love practices help replenish energy. Saying no is a way to set boundaries for ourselves. In my last video, The Truth About Black Love, Lost, Broken, and Ready to Reclaim, I spoke on some of the divisions we have in the Black community, the benefits of unity, and the need to show love for each other. In this video, I want to speak on the importance of self-love. Because in actuality, in order to show love for each other in our community, we must first love ourselves. It's hard, if not impossible, for a community that has been through as much as we have been through and still going through to expect that community to not need healing for strength. A strong community can't be strong if the individuals that make up that community aren't strong, whole, and healed. Trying to accomplish a feat like this would be like expecting a car to run on prayer and fumes. It ain't happening. Self-love is where boundaries come in. Without boundaries, we drain ourselves until there's nothing left to give. Boundaries are rules that we set up to protect our emotional, mental, and financial well-being. Healthy boundaries foster respect and strong relationships. Unfortunately, many of us may have been taught that saying no is selfish. We feel guilty for wanting to say no. Because you should totally let people drain you dry just so they don't feel bad. That makes perfect sense. But in the case of maintaining our mental, emotional, and physical health, saying no is an act of self-preservation, not selfishness. As Black people, some of us may struggle with making boundaries and showing love. You can't see it, but I have my hand raised on this one. But I argue that it's not totally our fault. Black communities, both in the US and globally, have relied on collective survival because, well, systemic oppression, economic exclusion, and social barriers. These obstacles often made individual success nearly impossible. This survival strategy taught us to prioritize the community, which isn't a bad thing, but in doing so, it also created challenges in exercising self love. Years of struggle, survival mode, and emotional walls have made it hard for us to truly embrace self love. Trying to maneuver life with these issues doesn't leave a lot of time and or energy for self love. Many of us are taught that we have to work twice as hard, endure more, and push through no matter what. This can lead to self-neglect rather than self-love. Furthermore, sacrificing for others is often praised, while prioritizing yourself can be seen as selfish. Also, unfortunately, many of us have been betrayed, abandoned, or mistreated, whether by family, friends, or systems. Some of us are conditioned to show up for our people without question. Unfortunately, not everyone has good intentions, and some in our own community will take advantage of our kindness for personal gain. This may cause us to struggle to extend love to ourselves and others. And just in case life hadn't already handed us enough to unpack in therapy, many of us were raised with tough love instead of nurturing love, being told to stop crying, or suck it up, or be strong. All those things teach us to suppress emotions rather than process them. Over time, this can make it difficult to show or receive love in healthy ways. Ooh, yes, my hand is raised for all that I have mentioned, especially the tough love section. Ugh! Looking back at history, during slavery, our ancestors were deliberately stripped of their families, culture, and resources. Survival depended on communal care. Enslaved individuals had to rely on each other emotionally, physically, and strategically to endure brutal conditions. Escaping slavery required strategic alliances, whether through the Underground Railroad or other resistance efforts. Trusting and prioritizing the group was a survival necessity. During Jim Crow, Black people faced systemic, economic, and social disenfranchisement. Because of this, Black businesses, schools, and neighborhoods were built through collective pooling of resources like Black Wall Street and mutual aid societies. Also during this time, the church became the cornerstone of Black survival. In addition to meeting spiritual needs, the Black church was also a place of financial assistance, education, and action. The segregation of Jim Crow meant Black people could not afford to prioritize individualism because collective progress was the only way forward. If one person got an opportunity, it was often seen as their duty to bring others along. Just like a good line dance, we kept stepping together, adjusting to the rhythm of history, moving in sync for survival and progress. And with a smooth kick, step, and turn, we moved into the next era, the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement was deeply community driven. It's this deep sense of unity that powered movements like bus boycotts, sit-ins, and legal battles. So, history shows us there was a serious need for our unity in our community, and in this need, it was imperative to teach the importance of sacrificing for the benefit of the collective. It was a matter of survival. Black people in the past had to move as a unit because systemic oppression prevented individual advancement, and self-sacrifice for the community was often seen as necessary and noble. Today, it's a little different. Today, partly because of social conditioning, capitalism, and survival mindsets, many of us are focused more on personal success rather than collective uplift, which, again, isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in doing so, we have lost a lot of our communal care. And the fact is that without some level of communal care, it makes our survival harder. There has to be a balance between love for community and love for self. Focusing only on the community while sacrificing our individual needs is one extreme. Only focusing on our individual needs and neglecting the needs of those in our community is the opposite extreme. Both are on the opposite ends of the spectrum. Balance is a necessity. As it relates to self-love, giving too much without boundaries can lead to emotional and financial burnout. Guarding ourselves too much can lead to distrust, broken relationships, and isolation. Also, love without wisdom can make us vulnerable to manipulation, while too much self-protection can prevent us from building healthy relationships. So while we move from a collective struggle to a more independent mindset, the real challenge is balance. We need to love ourselves enough to set boundaries, but also stay connected enough to support one another. And I'll admit, this is not an easy balancing act to achieve. While collective survival was crucial in the past, today unbalanced expectations can hold us back. Prioritizing individual healing, self-love, and boundaries actually strengthens the community because healthy individuals create a healthier collective. One thing I think we can do to attempt to balance the scales a bit, and this is just my opinion, I figured if everybody else could put their opinion on the internet, I can too, is realizing that self-love isn't selfish. Not at all. It strengthens the community. As quoted by the renowned writer and civil rights activist Audre Lorde, RIP, quote, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare," unquote. And as people, we shouldn't have to go to great lengths just to be able to give ourselves much needed care. But here we are. If we as individuals are emotionally healthy and strong, the community can't help but be the same. Also, helping others is great, but not at the cost of our own well-being. Hopefully, as a collective, we can learn to help when we can, but not sacrifice ourselves. Always putting the community first can lead to burnout, resentment, and an inability to truly help in the long run. Love doesn't mean overextending ourselves. It means creating a space where both we and others can thrive. Additionally, learning that boundaries aren't betrayal. Boundaries protect our energy so we can give in meaningful ways. Saying no isn't cutting people off. It's managing your energy wisely. If you keep saying yes out of guilt or for whatever reason, you'll burn out, and no one benefits from that. There are practical ways to set boundaries. I will link the sources that I used in the description box. We can practice firm but kind responses. We can identify our limits and communicate them early. This involves knowing ourselves. Nikki Giovanni, a celebrated poet and educator who died last year, RIP to her, said, quote, "If you don't understand yourself, you don't understand anybody else," unquote. Also, in doing this, in saying the word no, be prepared for pushback and stand firm without over-explaining. We should balance giving and protecting. Help where we can, but not at the cost of our own well-being. Self-love is about protection, not isolation. When we set boundaries, we teach people how to treat us, and we create a healthier, more respectful community. So let's channel our inner baby and pick up that masterful ability we set down years ago, and let's start saying the word no again as a way to show self-love. Balance is key. Let me know in the comments, what's one boundary you wish you set sooner? Thanks for watching. See you next time.